Welcome to Management 280, offered online or in one of my face-to-face class in conjunction with Blackboard Course Management. This chapter we'll be discussing chapter 12 is communicating in the digital age. Most of us already had some communication. We've been communicating. You're already at the college level, so you already have communication. The basic definition of communication is just exchanging information between the sender and the receiver. Now, from a corporation perspective, I have to teach my management how to properly communicate. In a corporation, since we have a very diverse what do they call a workforce, I have to be able to understand that my communication is sent properly and that it's understood. So first of all, we look at the sender. Who do we want to send a message to? We look at a receiver or person or anyone in the organization, who the intent of the message is. And then the coding. When I send a message, I always have to look, just like we do anything else when I'm looking at organizational behavior or consumers, how is the person that I'm sending a message going to encode my words or my actions or whatever I send to that individual. Now, the hardest part is selecting a medium. Now, if I look at the best medium that you've learned either in other classes, introduction to business or speech, is the best medium is face-to-face, because I can see the nonverbal, I can see my expressions, I can see a lot of other things going on. The one thing that's hard, so when you're selecting the medium, even though in the digital age, most of our communication is in, either emails or forums or something like we have like this, or blogs. So I don't see the emotional side. I can be very careful about the words I'm using. If I use it in bold or bold means I'm shouting, and some people use the icons or smiley cons that basically has a smiley picture or anything else, like LOL. Now, what does LOL mean? So lots of luck, lots of love, lots of whatever. So when you're using an icon, usually in the business communication, we don't use too many of those icons like that. We just state the word out. You're not sure what the other person knows or doesn't know. So remember, you have to be very important to select the right medium. Now, decoding. When I decode a message, is basically when I read a message, I'm decoding. It's through my perception, through all my interactions with you. If I've never met you or your first time I communicate with you, it's going to take me a little while to understand what you're coming from, especially when you're using the printed words. All right, so make sure. And I'll use the example hot. If I tell somebody, hey, you're hot. Now, if I'm talking to a female, hot may mean two things. She could be sweating hot, or hot could mean that she is an attractive lady. Do you see how it means? You got to be very careful on words that are simple, but may have different meanings within either the English language or maybe interpret differently with other individuals. Now, feedback is very important, and it's very hard because feedback is how I know that my message is going being decoded properly. So in a face-to-face, it's easy. I can say, if I say, hey, are you hot? I can see she may have a different kind of look, and it's, oh, wrong hot. I mean, it's really hot in this room. See how I just changed the word hot? Or I think your outfit looks hot. Okay, so make sure. Now, noise is anything that interferes with my message, and it could be the way I'm speaking, because I'm speaking too quickly. It could be because I have something on my face. It could be whatever, noise, or it could be noise. You know, so people think of noise, or it could be the words. It could be too complicated. There's a lot of noise encompasses a lot, and the book does a very good job of explaining what could be some of the noises or transmission. And it could be just a bad connection. As one noise. You know, that's what a lot of people think. But there's a lot of things that are mannerism or other things that may be upsetting to the individual. So that takes care of that. Now, certain barriers to communication, personal barriers. It's called personal barriers, because this makes sense with the decoding process. So if I'm looking at barriers, individuals may not be a good listener. There's certain skills in communication, variations in trust, different stereotypes or prejudice. I may use certain things, or you may just not like me because I'm Polish, or you may not like me because I'm Hispanic. And those are all barriers. But I may got ego, or you have poor listening skills. So make sure you look at the different personal barriers. The next one, the personal barriers, physical barriers, different time zones, telephone line static, distance from others, crashing computers, the way the office is designed could create some barriers. Semantic barriers are study words, and I mentioned that earlier, so I'm not going to go with that. What is hot? Does hot mean I'm good looking, or does hot mean I'm actually hot because of the temperature? Now, communication, what do you call it? competence is the ability to effectively use communication behaviors in a given context. A lot of times we try to get information from upward mobility or the downward mobility. And there's an exercise on page 305, what is your business etiquette? So basically that's a good thing. And I'm not going to go into because every business is a little different. And this is an organizational behavior. So when you're taking looking at this chapter, think about it for your organization, whether you're a big company, small company. Communication is very vital for any kind of success in communication, whether your employees or with the customers. And this one is a table. Look at this. Now, different styles. Some people are very assertive. So when they write you, very forceful. Some people are very aggressive, take advantage of others, glaring eyes, contact, nonverbal, moving or leaning close to the person, kind of like an intimidation. You know what I mean? Another thing is a person is non-assertive, encourage others to take advantage of them. If I seem like I'm too timid, even though it may not be because I don't want to upset somebody, because I don't have the eye contact and everything else, it may be sending me the nonverbal communication that, hey, I can walk over this individual. So this is very good. So make sure, and this is something you're looking at your style. And I think some of the assessments we have is figuring out what is your communication style dealing with conflict and everything else. Okay. Now the next one that we have is sources of nonverbal communication. If I look at nonverbal communicate, we're talking more to face-to-face, or even when face-to-face is the richest communication. Listening, if I talk to somebody, that's the second, because I could tell by the tone and the pitch of the individual. I may not see their face or expressions, but I could tell by the tone where they're upset. In written communication through emails and blogs, it's kind of hard. So you had to be very selective about the wording you're using. So let's look at it. But remember, in a face-to-face communication, I could say one thing but mean two different things. Because individuals are going to be looking at my expressions. And my expressions mean more than the words I say. I could say, hey, you're looking very, yeah, I like that hat I like that hat you have on, or that shirt you're wearing. And then I gotta roll my eyes like, yeah. And then somebody says, yeah, your words may say that, but your nonverbal, which in a lot of cultures, even in the U.S., but a lot of cultures outside, that's about 85 to 90% of my message is sent through the nonverbal. If I can't connect the nonverbal with my verbal, the message is the decoding process could go the wrong way. Okay, so if I look at nonverbal, messages spoken without the word, body language and gestures. I use a lot of body languages and gestures, but that makes a big difference. Some people don't. I mean, I have my hands all. Too much body language is already noise. But some body language, some gestures, instead of standing there like a robot, and then you look too rigid or you look too autocratic. So you need some kind of body language to make it look. Smile works out good. Touch, touch those that you care. In business, you always tell you don't touch. Don't hug and kiss me. I mean, even a close relationship, a handshake, or if somebody is having what do you call it? A crisis, an emotional crisis. It's okay to hug the person, not squeeze them or anything else, but only in a limited time. Now watch where your hands are at, gentlemen and ladies, because that could be, you could end up with a sexual harassment case. But we've been taught in business not to touch, be very rigid. And that's not really the case. People are people. Sometimes you need to have a hug or you need a handshake or something, a pat on the back, and that gives that touch. Now the other thing is facial expressions. Remember, make sure you're also looking at using a proper facial expression. My daughter, no matter whatever she says, her eyes always roll. She could say anything else, and so after a while, she agrees, but her eyes are rolling. It means you are basically disrespecting me. Whatever you're saying is not taken seriously, and she doesn't realize she's doing it. It's because we do. So a lot of times, like when I do these clips, when I see myself, my facial expression either shows enthusiasm or it shows discontent. So make sure you understand your own facial expression when you're talking to individual. If I'm promoting someone, I'm happy. If I'm being very ready to discipline someone, my facial expression should reflect that. It should be very serious and stern, because the situation will require that kind of expression. Eye contact. In a lot of cultures, it's disrespectful to look at somebody eye contact. In the U.S., if you're not looking in my eyes, it means you're lying or you're telling me something different. And eyes, a lot of times, are for lack of better words, the windows to the soul, to your spirit. So if I'm looking at the eyes, I usually, especially in management or in marketing sales, because I'm a double major, when I look at the eyes, I can tell if I say something that upsets somebody else, their eyes will trick or something else, unless you have like in gambling or something else. So I look at the eyes, and the eyes are the first indicator whether I hit a nerve or something else. Not to go on it, it just gives me a flag or an indication. Hey, I could ask a few more questions. Okay, so make sure you have the eye contact. Don't stare at a person, but at least look at the individual every now and then to that. Practical tips: maintain good eye contact, nod your head to convey and listen. And be careful. In some culture, just by nodding does not mean I agree. In Japanese culture, if I nod, it just means I acknowledge that I heard you. It doesn't necessarily mean I agree with your statement. So when you make sure, different cultures, I'm talking generally more for the American culture, but you have to understand what I'm learning from the nonverbal could be completely different for Hispanic. Completely, like if I look at we talk about like space. If I look into somebody's space in the U.S., we have like an arm length space. In a lot of cultures, other cultures, Hispanic cultures, or even some of the Asian cultures, they would expect to be in the closest space. We keep our distance. The only time we ever get closer is when we're in an elevator. We all pack in. We all like this. We don't look at anybody except me. I talk to everybody else. Okay, smile, show interest, lean forward, your interest, use the tone of voice, avoiding eye contact. These are negative. Closing your eyes or tense muscles, excessive yawning when I'm talking. And sometimes you may be quiet, tired, because you work like. So if I'm talking, you go, oh, it doesn't, I'm going, geez, right away you send me a message, you're bored when I'm talking, hey, right? So remember, I'm looking for both sides, okay? So that takes care of practical things. We're all right on this one. Now, active listening. When I'm looking at active listening, the chapter has a real nice thing on active listening. There's a whole chart in there. Look at it in your book, table 1213. Active listening helps decoding and interpreting the verbal messages. Remember, appreciative. Listen for pleasure, entertainment, inspiration. If someone's you appreciate them, you're more actively to look at them. Empathetic, looking at emotions and body language. Okay, so then I have comprehensive, organize your thoughts and everything else. Any kind of communication. Written is easier because you could write it before you send it. When you're speaking to individuals, it's kind of hard because I throw off a lot of stuff. Try to have it in an organization, kind of build them up, and kind of, so if you don't understand something, if the person's talking to you, paraphrase. Don't repeat word for word. Just say, oh, so you really mean that you're upset with my policy for change. Okay, so make sure you're that discerning, attempt to, attempt to understand the main reason. Okay, and then evaluate. Always try to evaluate what does the intent mean. A lot of people may not want to hurt your feelings, so they're kind of like beating around the bush, for lack of a better word. And sometimes you have to take that information. Other individuals always think there's a hidden meaning in all my messages. I try to keep it simple. Oh, it's too easy. What does he or she mean? Okay, now men and women act differently, to interpret differently, to communicate differently. It's not me making up. It's what research is showing. And when you look at your wife or your loved one or a girlfriend or a boyfriend or anyone else, and men may we generalize in a little thing, but we still think a little different. Women are more likely to share credit for success, ask more questions, or technically give feedback. Where men, bluntly give feedback. I don't like that. More likely to both say, "Look what I did," and less likely to admit faults to witnesses. So okay, so that takes care of that. We're pretty good. And now the last one we have is communication in the computerized information age. Like it or not, we're in information age. So right now you only got their cubicles. It always amazes me. The person sitting right next to me and they're communicating back and forth in the text message instead of looking over and saying, "Hey, do you want to go out for lunch?" In my home household, I have my son and his wife and my grandson moved in because it works out better for all of us because of the economy. Helps around the house, helps them in a mortgage and everything else, in the rent and everything else. But I've noticed a lot of times my little 3-year-old playing on his iTablet or Nintendo, whatever they have, the little game. My daughter-in-law is on her text messaging to ever, and my son is on his iPhone or iTablet or smartphone. And this is a communication of a family. Most families now, they're either texting or even text each other while they're sitting in the same room. Drives me nuts. I'm older, but I think the face-to-face is losing. But face-to-face is when you want to resolve some issue, you have to do it. But like it or not, this is the age we're in. You taking this online class, so you have to be effective in how you communicate in that. So multi-communication uses different technologies. I got the smartphone, I got the Skype, I got the Facebook, I got the Twitter. I got all kind of different ways to communicate. It's more this is the communication we do. It's quick, instant, and it's 24/7. You've got the internet. The internet is basically internal within the company. The extra, it'd be like when you go to the college, Harper College, and you're using the Wi-Fi. You're using through the internet within the company when you sign into the students' portal. Okay. And then you got extranet is where you have employees are allowed to come into your intranet company, and not as suppliers and vendors. It's a way of communication, works well, it keeps communication, and it minimizes me having an account representative or anything else, because you can come into my system and place the order. Some of the benefits in mail: increased teamwork, reduce paperwork, increased flexibilities. That's one of the benefits. Drawback is reduces time from distributing information. But it increases, let's say drawback, increased teamwork, reduces paper. These two are, part of the drawback is, and I've got them in the wrong, I'll have to adjust that thing. Part of the drawback is that we don't have that face-to-face communication, and there's a lot of errors. We get more messages. I think I teach several classes, and I finish all my emails. By noon, I'll have 75 more emails. And in a business, I used to have 75 to 125 emails. That's a lot of email. Video conference is another one. Telepresence, group support system, make sure you do, and teleworking. All these are the techniques. You have Skype, you have video conferences. There's a room that's all set up so you can communicate. I don't have to travel. So basically, this is your whole chapter here on chapter 12, communicating in the digital age. Most of the younger people, Generation X, Generation Y, millennials, and basically baby boomers. Not the discount baby boomers that don't understand it. If you're in the corporate world, you have to know how to communicate, not only within the company, but outside the company. And from an organizational cultural perspective, what we're doing here in this thing, what policies you have, what could you say on Facebook? Do you have a policy on Facebook? How do you communicate? How do you get people to get into blog? How do you get all generations to communicate? What's the most effective way to communicate? When do I use face-to-face? Which medium use? How do I decode? What's my communication? Because the whole thing, you have to look at it, is that you have a message and you have to deliver that message to your workforce or to your management or to your company. Do I deliver it to one department? When I deliver it to an engineer, I might communicate differently than I deliver it to my construction individual. I may deliver it differently to my salary workers. So when you're looking at communication, it's interesting. Communication is constantly changing. Communication is upgrading. We're looking how we're communicating here online. We have a new Blackboard coming in. We'll have more and more face-to-face, kind of a Skype embedded into the Blackboard. So look forward. So basically, this is Chapter 12, Management 280, offered by Harper College, communicating in the digital world. And this is a mind map, so you saw all the different levels. When you're reading, use my concept maps and just add in. So the more you write, you're doing well. Again, I'll see you within the classes. So I guess that's about it for now. All right, communicating in the digital world. My name is Dr. George Mochocki. Have a nice day. Bye.